stories that I found on Reddit and in the subreddit called Let's Not Meet. So here is story number 1. This is a long one, bear with me. 2 years ago, I was working for a company as a person who measures houses. Most people haven't heard of it. It's where you essentially have an iPad and you go to people's homes and draw up floor plans and measure rooms for carpet/hardwood flooring projects. Anyone can request one. I was a 25-year-old female at the time. I was one of the few females who works this position. I was actually really good at my job, so they gave me a lot of work, and I usually hit between 10 to 14 houses a day, driving all over multiple towns. This house was my last house of the day, in the middle of nowhere, and I was exhausted. When I got there, I was incredibly annoyed because the customer wasn't home and was late for his appointment. 10 minutes later, he pulls up next to my car. He was a middle-aged man, balding, wearing a normal office job attire, with a tie and everything. He seemed a bit awkward, but was also apologetic and let me into his home. Upon entering, the house was unbelievably spotless and organized, minimal furniture, and smelled like cleaning supplies. It didn't strike me as odd at first. He had 2 cats lounging in the living room. He first started acting weird as I was directed to the first bedroom. He mentioned, "Wow, my cats love you. They don't take to strangers like this usually." But his cats literally didn't move or come near me the whole time. I just nodded and smiled while I got to work scaling out the master bedroom on my iPad. He started inquiring about the electronics I was using. "Do they keep track of where you are on that thing?" he asked. Immediate red flag. I responded, "Yes, and my boss knows how long each job should take based on the scope of the work. It's incredible technology." I lied without missing a beat. He agreed it was amazing. "Be careful, don't touch the gun on the nightstand, it might go off," he chuckled. Talk about immediate spine chill. I looked up from my iPad, and sure enough, there was a handgun on the nightstand. I knew instantly that I needed to behave like nothing that was happening was triggering alarms for me. He directed me to the second bedroom, and he said the exact same thing, warning me of a gun on the nightstand that indeed was there. This was the moment I knew I was in danger. At first, I thought it was just my anxiety around guns, but at this point, the tension building between us was undeniable. There are only 2 bedrooms on the scope of work. I hastily met up with him in the kitchen and began running down the next steps. But he interrupted me. "Could you measure the basement stairs? I forgot to add them to the list, and I think I might want to carpet them in the future." My heart dropped, but my stupid customer service conditioned brain could not figure out how to get away with saying no. He led me to the basement door, and you guys, there was no way he was planning on doing anything with these stairs. They were blank wooden stairs, L-shaped, going down, leading to an unfinished basement. Unfortunately, in order to get an accurate measure, I had to walk all the way down them to the basement. Meanwhile, he stood blocking the doorway with a smile on his face, mentioning again about whether or not my boss knew where I was, to which I shortly replied yes. Once I got to the basement, I scanned the room quickly. There was not 1, but 7 deep freezers lining the walls. In the middle of the room was a lit, low-hanging ceiling light, revealing an old television set, VHS tapes scattered on the floor, and an old recliner facing the TV. Behind the set, 2 white shelves full of VHS tapes. In this moment, I knew one of 2 things was going to happen. He was either going to let me go, or he was going to push me down the stairs. I held my breath, put a smile on my face in an attempt to act my way out of the situation, and began to climb the stairs. All I could hear was my heartbeat in my ears. He was still blocking the door, no smile this time. As I got about to the 5th stair from the top, I felt him hesitate, which made me hesitate as well. You could cut the tension with a knife, and I finally understood that expression. To my absolute shock and relief, after 4 seconds, he stepped aside. I made a beeline towards the front door, not saying a word, when he stopped me again, saying, "Oh, before you go, won't you give my cats a treat? They loved you so much." He was holding a bag of cat treats. I quickly gave his cats a treat, thanked him, and practically ran out of the house, and definitely ran to my car. The second I got out of his driveway, I had the most intense panic attack and cried. I tried to call my boss, but I was in a dead zone. The truth of the matter is that my boss would not have noticed I was missing for at least 24 hours when I didn't route my day the next workday. Yes, he would have eventually been caught, as it was my last known location, but I would have been long dead. I suffered PTSD over this experience. I couldn't sleep for a week. I was petrified to work my job, but had no choice. This day still haunts me. Once I finally did get a hold of my boss, she mostly laughed off the situation as him being some weirdo. Nonetheless, she did tell me she would flag him so that I specifically would not be resent out to his house if there was a need for a remeasure. At the time, I felt like that was all there was to be done, so I didn't write down the address before it disappeared on my iPad because I felt I didn't need to. A couple months later, I did try to find the information because I started feeling like maybe I should inform the police, but no matter who I called, since I was not sure of the exact day, I could not get the info. Additionally, I was working 40 hours a week, hitting 10 to 14 houses a day. No way could I look in my Waze history to find the address after a couple of months. For what it's worth, once I was out of the dead zone, I also called my boyfriend and immediately went to his house for comfort. He witnessed the immediate aftermath. All my friends have known this experience, and I was encouraged to write it here after a recent conversation about it. Okay, so this is story number 2. At first, I wasn't going to share the story, but now I'm more over the situation. Before we start, judge me all you want, but I know I can be a bit stupid. It's only because I don't like to force myself to live on the edge because of the sick people in this world. I live my life as freely and fearlessly as I possibly can. At the time of the story, I was 23. My birthday just passed the 29th of November, making me 24 now. I'm only 5'2" and about 170 to 180 pounds. I'm strong enough to help move furniture, but not strong enough to defend myself the way I would like. You would think as someone who survived an attempted sexual assault, I would learn some self-defense, but I've lost a lot of motivation and self-worth since. The abusive relationship really made it worse. That's besides the point. So to start, I won't get into major details, but I had just moved to Jackson, Tennessee from Miami, Florida, because I had just gotten out of an extremely physical, emotional, and mentally abusive relationship that lasted 3 years. About sometime in June, my current boyfriend and I had been doing a trip pretty much every weekend. We would visit a new hiking and waterfall area. Although there isn't a nightlife, Tennessee is amazingly beautiful. We went to this place called Narrows of the Harpeth. This was one of the underwhelming places we've been, but still so relaxing. After we found a cool place to sit and swim after hiking for 2 hours, it was time to make the hour trip back to Jackson. I put my shoes on and I slipped my dress back on, which is a little bit above the knee. Like if I bend too far forward, my low bum will be on display. against sexuality, so showing some skin never really bothers me, and I don't really think about it because I just expect people to respect me as I respect them in the way I dress. Anyways, on the way back to the car, I, being the dumbass I am, managed to trip and fall and scrape my leg pretty badly. It's actually scarred now. Anyways, I tell my boyfriend we need to go to Walmart once back in Jackson so I can thoroughly clean my wound with hydrogen peroxide and Neosporin. My boyfriend says okay. An hour later, we are at Walmart. Mind you, it is only about 9 p.m., going on 10 p.m., not late by any means. We get what I need, but because I am still tipsy, I finish in the car ride home, and I got distracted so easily and remembered that my boyfriend got me the wrong size case for my iPhone 11 Pro. He got the Max instead of just the Pro. I wanted an idea of what I could trade it for, and he wanted to look at some of the games as well as a gaming PC for me. So I am happily tipsy and excited to find a new case, which if you have ever been to Walmart, the cases are never in order and often causes you to bend down to look at things. There was a man looking at the cases, and I just said, "Excuse me, sorry, can I look at those cases you're standing in front of?" He just looked at me with a blank yet dirty look and nodded and stepped over. As I am happily looking through the shelf, about 5 minutes in, this lady and what I assume are her 2 children approach me. Mind you, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I am thrown off by how close she is to me, especially with her baby that looks no older than 9 months. I step back, and she just grabs my hair and says, "Oh my God, wow, I haven't seen you in forever. Look at that hair, wow." Her grip tightens at this point. My heart is racing, my face gets so hot, and I am visibly scared. That's when my boyfriend says, "Everything okay, babe?" He looks at me equally concerned. I am thinking to myself, does this lady know my mom? Who is she? Is she an old family friend? I don't remember. Mind you, I'm originally from Ohio. We have family here, but I don't know of any of my family that lives in Tennessee. My mom loves to brag about her kids, so I'm trying to shake this weird feeling, but her daughter keeps looking behind me. So I go to turn around, and she goes, "No, don't turn around. Walk with me, please. Trust me." I don't know why, but I felt she was being genuine, and I followed her. We step over to the side by the baby clothes, which is still in front of the electronics, and she says, "Baby, I am so sorry to scare you, but there are 3 men surrounding you. They went by the laptops, talked, and then I noticed the guy taking photos and videos of you while you were bent over looking at the cases. The other man was the tall guy next to you, and I don't know where the 3rd man went." All I can remember is this high-pitched ringing in my ears. My stomach flipped, and I felt like I was going to be sick. I never knew what people meant when they said everything slowed down, but in that moment, everything moved in slow motion, and I was freaked out to the point that I have no clue what she said after. It was as if I blacked out for a moment. I then came to the realization that the family and my boyfriend were looking at me, visibly panicked. I turned around, and there he was. He is Hispanic, shorter than me, maybe about 5'1", but he was very much built, also looked to be about 40. The other man, who was white, about maybe in his 40s, was about 5'11". I'll never forget the dead blank rage in the Hispanic man's eyes. Like his first meal in 5 days had been stolen from him, and he was ready to kill in order to have it back. That's when I saw the white man walk over to him. They said something, both looked at me, looked back at each other, then said something else and started to walk slowly towards us. At that point, we all turned and headed for the registers, and that's when I thanked my lucky stars because there were about 3 cops at the front of the store. By the time I rudely pushed past people to get to self-checkout with tears in my eyes and frankly repeating "excuse me" to anyone who got in front of me, I looked back and saw them just standing there with the 3rd guy this time. My heart sank and I wanted to pass out at that moment. I guess it looked like I was going to go up to the cops because they hightailed it once they saw me get close to the cops. thought was, get to the car, get to the gun, don't stop, run. My boyfriend said he could barely keep up with me, and at one point I had grabbed his hand so tight he had to force the grip off because it felt like I was going to crush his hands. And before anyone bashes my boyfriend, I don't expect a man to be my savior. Also, he isn't the angry, confrontational type. He's very calm and level-headed. He wouldn't even hurt a fly unless I asked him to get rid of it for whatever reason. I just knew I was the target, and I am putting him at risk. I knew they could easily jump him, and one of them could overpower me after taking him out. I probably looked crazed walking and running past everyone, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to become another missing sister. We made it back to the car safely and peeled out of there. I've never seen him drive so fast, as he is beyond careful and would never speed. We sat at a Sonic for about an hour to make sure we weren't being followed. We recounted everything that happened. I just couldn't believe we were both too tipsy to notice that I had become prey in somewhere as simple as a Walmart. I've never felt so stupid and irresponsible in my life. I never want to experience that fear and panic in my life again. I didn't even get the chance to thank the lady who pretty much saved us. Sometimes we talk about it. What if the lady didn't see what that guy was doing? Even if we caught on, there were 3 and only saw 2 at first. I think of the horrors. Last night, I had a nightmare that the men attacked us in the parking lot. Creepiest part of the dream was the third man shoved me in the trunk, and as I went to look at his face, all I could see was a featureless face. I woke up in tears that night, realizing I didn't get a clear look at the third guy's face. It took me nearly a month to enter a Walmart again, since I have moved states and have only been to Walmart once since moving here. So to the creepy men that stalked me, upskirted me, and basically followed me, even when they knew I was around other people, I genuinely hope we never meet again, because the gun I carry on my person now has 3 beautiful hollows that would enjoy meeting you all.